Hello, beautiful people. Today we're going to be talking all about how to skate transition, 3 different tricks from easy to a little more hard. I'm actually going to be relearning some tricks as well, so I figured this would be a cool video to talk with you about the process of learning these new tricks. They can be applied in mini ramps, bowls, vert ramps if you're crazy, anything like that. So we're going to go from the easiest trick to the more difficult trick. Starting, the first one is a fakie backsmith, and I don't know if that's the actual proper term for this. It's almost like a switch barley grind in a way. It's a Peter Hewitt trick, because that's what I refer to it as. And this trick is actually really easy, but for some reason I don't see too many people doing it that often. So I think one of the big techniques in doing this fakie smith grind is really about being lazy. As crazy as that sounds, but you have to do a lot less with this trick than it is doing more. The big thing is just coming up at the right angle. You want to just ride up at fakie, almost like you're going to do a switch crook or something, or if you're going to do like a switch backside kick turn, we want to ride up fakie, kind of like you're rolling out of a backside smith. Imagine that. Like, if you do already know how to do backsmiths, this is going to be a huge help. But if you don't know how to do backsmiths, one thing that will be a huge help in learning this trick is actually figuring out how to drop in a backside smith position. What that means is you sit on top of the deck, you lock that back truck into here, and instead of going to 50-50 and turning in, which you can learn first, you kind of slowly drop your board down onto your rail, and then you learn how to scoot the board in. And what a lot of that is your weight. So essentially, as you're shifting it, you're kind of doing your heels to your toes. So as you're using your toes, you go back onto your heels and distribute your weight. So that is one advantage for sure is learning this trick, is just learning how to drop into a backsmith saw. So it's really just about lapping that rail on there. And when you lap that back rail on there, it's almost like a cushion, because you're gonna fall in. You're not gonna hang up. You know that, like, if you try to turn right away like that, straight in, it's more likely you will hang up. But if you stay in like this, and then you just drop it into smith and go from your heels to your toes pushing forward, you're gonna fall into the transition, almost like a little bit of a grind as you're rolling in. So when I say be lazy, be easy on it, what I mean by that is you don't actually have to lock into a proper smith grind for this trick. You really just want to barely get that wheel over there, and then you're just hanging your heels over it, and your heels are what's like kind of pushing it forward. And if you stay into this motion with your back shoulder, in this case dropped, you can kind of use your heels and then go to your toes as you roll back into it. So a lot of it is about keeping that shoulder almost like you're doing a backside smith grind, but going fakie. And I know this might be one of those tricks where you're learning this before a backside smith grind, which is totally reasonable, because the thing about it is that you're not really locking all the way in. You don't want to get that nice pinch. You kind of want to just ride on. Someone's just riding onto that grind, getting that truck in there and using your heel to push it out, and then you use your toes to get back into the transition. So a lot of it is just getting that nice angle. So you're riding in, using your heel to kind of push it forward, and then you're using your toes to ride back into the transition. One thing that I've done quite a few times is actually go back in fakie. It's almost easier sometimes because you stay on your heels. So instead of going from heels to your toes, trying to go back in, you actually stay on your heels, and then what you do is try to like power slide into the transition using all your heels and kind of leaning back. So instead of going back forward, you're sort of just pushing back, almost like a power slide into the transition. Now this is a trick I used to do quite a lot, and I've had kind of a hard time relearning it, essentially, is what I've been doing lately, is really working on it and what it is. And I don't know if there's a proper name for it. So if I'm calling this by the wrong terminology, please correct me down below so I know what to call it. But basically what I call is a half-cab rock and roll to frontside rock out. So basically you're going up and you're going backside kick turn, kind of into it, half-cab, but then you're turning out front side. And the reason this trick is really hard is because it's a big twist of the shoulders. You're kind of twisting into this way, and normally you'd want to keep turning your shoulders out. That's a very more natural way to continue the motion. However, with this trick, it's very much you're turning in and then turning out the same way that you went in, which is very unique for most skateboard tricks. You're normally continuing the motion. So this one's very much an abrupt stop and turn back around front side. So for this trick, basically you want to be rolling up fakie, coming up, and you're gonna churn into that frontside rock motion. The only trick you really want to know before trying this trick is frontside rock in. I have made tutorials on that trick. I'll leave a link up above, but a lot of that is in your back foot with the frontside rock. You're using that pivot point in your concave of your board and you're churning it out. So once you have your frontside rocks locked in, essentially you want to learn how to half cab into the rock and roll. It's much easier to do a half cab rock and roll with the rack side rock out. However, that's not what we're going to be talking about today. We're talking about the twisty-roo of half cab in and then turning your shoulder out. And the one big thing I will say with this, as much as you have to turn your shoulder upwards to get into that motion, half cab of a rock, a lot of the time when you're doing that, you still want to keep that shoulder open, and that's what's really going to help you with this trick. It's really helped me throughout learning this process. A lot of times what I was doing is swinging my whole body onto the rock, and then by the time I got here, I didn't have any of that sort of pivot body motion to turn me back in. So eventually what I learned is how to keep my shoulder open this way, even as I'm turning into it. So that way when I'm turned into it, I'm ready to come out. So the whole time I'm kind of looking over my left shoulder as I'm getting into it. And the big other thing that's really helped me with this trick is having my back foot constantly shifting. So my foot's like in this position, and then as it goes in, it's kind of staying in that position. And then I'm using my toes essentially on my board. My toes are what's lifting the board back up to go back in. So a lot of it is about the shoulders and keeping the shoulders in. And the one other thing that I was really struggling with is like decking it out and stalling it. And what I've noticed, the longer that I get up on top of it all the way, it's actually a lot harder to get in. So what I've been trying to do is trying to think of it as a tap, almost like wanting to tap it. And if you think about it, that motion, it's a lot easier to commit to it, because when you're up on there and then you want to turn back in, you're so stalled out that it's hard for your shoulders to fall back in. Your body's more on the deck and you're not in the transition. So that is a big thing, is using your back foot, keeping your shoulders open, and then you're almost just kind of wanting to tap it and then keep your shoulders back into the transition. So the whole point of this is like, you're almost staying like this, that kind of motion the whole time versus trying to get up onto it and then turn. So you don't want to stall out too much. You kind of just want to tap it, get your toes back here, turn it back in. It's been a really fun trick to relearn. Now that I've done them, I feel much more confident. It took me a little while to get used to them, and it's kind of scary because when you're up here, you feel like you're locked out, but you can run out backside. It's totally fine. And if you want to learn the half cab backside rock and rolls first, that's great too. But this trick is really fun. I feel like there's going to be a lot of advantages. Like hopefully I can learn maybe even how to take it into hurricane and then frontside out. Hopefully some of these little tips can help you learn as well. This next trick has been a little bit of a battle for me, to be honest. Another trick that I actually used to do, my friend Scooter, I feel like he almost invented it. He used to do it all the time, like locked and loaded everywhere. And what it is a frontside Smith stall. You pop it into a frontside rock out. And it seems really easy, it looks really cool, but it's another one of those weird ones where it has a lot to do with your shoulders and kind of going against the grain. It doesn't feel very natural. So the two things that you kind of do want to know before this one is just having Smith stalls and lock and getting used to like pinching it in that back truck. And you want to have those frontside rocks on lock. Pretty much once you have those two tricks, it's just about combining them together. And the weird thing about this is you're going down and then you're going back up. And I'd say the big advantage that I've learned throughout this process is just learning that, is how to stick my Smith stall in there and lock it in there enough to where I'm comfortable enough to actually hit the tail and then slam it down so that I could slam it back to a frontside rock. It's pretty common when I was learning, at least just now trying to relearn it, as I was going up to frontside feeble and not getting all the way in there. And I'll say the big thing with that is like just getting your body above it and not being in the transition, actually getting more on the deck and actually popping up and then falling into the transition. The big sort of tip to this trick is really having that nice pinch spot up on here and being back. You want to get everything, you want to put all your pressure on that back foot, because as soon as you start falling forward, it's really hard and it's kind of all over. So you really want to sit in that back seat when you're in here and have all your weight sort of lifting back, pushing back, where normally you're pushing forward to go into the Smith. So you almost want to think of it as like you're zinging out and you're pushing your Smith grind out. So you don't want to grind though. That's well, you can do that once you figured it out. But the big thing is just dipping your front truck down and having that locked in spot. The more you dip it down, actually the more it's going to be easy to pop it up and turn it around. So you don't have to worry about like getting it too straight. You almost want it kind of sideways, because that's going to work to your advantage as you pop it and turn it into that frontside rock. The big thing with this is just that, is like popping it onto your tail and pushing it up onto the deck. And what you want to do is try to get your whole body weight onto the deck. So as you're Smith stalling, you're popping it up, you're almost shifting your whole upper body weight onto the deck like into a frontside rock motion. So if you have those frontside rocks on lock, it's going to be a big advantage from here, because from there you'll basically use your back toe to pinch it and turn it back around. A lot of it is in that back toe even when you get to the front rock, and then same with the Smith grind. You want to have your front foot more of a balancing act. You're kind of just holding it there very lightly. A lot of it is in your back foot, holding all that pressure from here, popping it, and then pinching it again from here, and then the front side rock out. It's kind of a weird trick. It takes a while to get used to, but I would say a lot of this is in your shoulders. So you're kind of dipping down with your shoulders as much as you have it pinch, and then you're trolling your shoulders back up. So that's what's really foreign about this trick. It's not normally something that you would do with skateboarding. So a lot of it is here, and then back up. So using that pivot motion of thinking that you're going like that to that, and then you're just churning it out. So again, it's in that back foot. A lot of those toes in the back foot to getting it out. And then same with even the Smith. You want to use your toes quite a bit and shifting it up, popping it onto that front side rock. If you have any questions for this trick particular, let me know down below. I'll try to give you some feedback, some helpful ones. So this is definitely like one of those weird, unique tricks.